Settle down, brother. This is the award-winning quarter report powered by enca.com. South Africa is a movie. Welcome to the watch party. The Democratic Alliance is trying very, very hard to mislead South Africa. In the last week, they have debuted a controversial billboard on the N1 as part of their push to replace and do away with broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Policy, BBBEE, technically. Their core argument is that using race as a classification and a marker and a category through which to try and achieve redress is not only unnecessary, but also has led to a failing government that has enriched some ANC political elites while leaving the rest of the country poor, and that BEE has somehow been built and was designed as a system to enrich those elites and designed to be corruptible and designed to be a mechanism to enrich those elites, and somehow that BEE has kept the rest of the country poor. They're arguing that they want to replace BEE with what they are trying to sell as this kind of like inclusion for all act that focuses on poverty as a mechanism for redress. But they have misled and are trying to mislead the country by painting BEE as something that it's not, and painting many ills in this country as being caused by BEE when they frankly have not been at all. So, on today's show, let's talk about what Black economic empowerment actually is, what the DA is trying to pretend that it is in order to try and use the popular societal sentiment amongst certain people of bashing BEE to try and make it look like BEE is the cause of all of our woes and maladies. And let's also talk about their counter-proposal to replace BEE. Hold your hateful comments until long enough into the video for us to actually know that you've heard us out. Don't, if you are watching this right now or listening to it within 2 minutes of us publishing this, release a hot take in the comment section, because we know that if you've commented that quickly, you literally have not listened to or experienced enough. The only place to watch the full show is on enca.com. The link is in the description. Also, a link in the description if you want to go buy some 3 Beanies Network merchandise like I'm wearing right now and the brother James, my literal brother James, is wearing. Click a like and a subscribe if you're on YouTube. Find us on WhatsApp on our WhatsApp channel. Just search 3 Beanies Network. So the Democratic Alliance put up a billboard. The billboard in itself is wildly problematic. But let's start with the billboard and then go to what they're talking about. So they put up this billboard. So it's got 2 color blocks. And on the right, it says in white text on blue background, choose real opportunities for all, vote DA. And then on the other side, white text on a black background, BEE made ANC elites rich and left SA South Africa poor. Now, it's already deeply problematic that they chose a black background. Let's just call it what it is. It's the dog whistle that everybody correctly has been identifying it as being. Could have picked a raft of colors. In fact, if you wanted to go for the most eye-catching noticeable, you should have done a red background. That's literally color science. But they literally chose to use black background, white text. But now let's look at the core of their argument. So they're trying to put forward this new bill to replace BEE, and Helen Ziller, amongst other spokespersons, have been saying that the Black economic empowerment policy, it's a very cute sleight of hand, the way you would experience some kind of trickster artist, some kind of magician, street magician. Because they say Black economic empowerment has made ANC elites rich. And while that is technically true of some ANC elites, they make it seem as though that's what Black economic empowerment just has done, full stop, because then they say, and left South Africa poor. So what they're saying is Black economic empowerment is the reason why the vast majority of South Africans are still struggling, why tens of millions of people live in literal definitional poverty and are eligible for social grants because they are living in poverty. They're trying to say this. Matthew Cuthbert, the DA's head of policy, said, this advert is telling the truth about what many South Africans already supposedly know, that BEE has failed under the ANC. It has made a handful of politically connected individuals wealthy, while the rest of the country has been left behind. For 3 decades, this policy has been sold as empowerment, but it has delivered the opposite. And then Cuthbert says, millions remain locked out of the economy, 12 million South Africans unable to find work, 44 million struggling just to afford their next meal, while a few benefit from inflated contracts and state tenders. The majority continue to pay the price for corruption and greed. Bing, 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 bing. There it is. So he was talking about BEE, and then suddenly he's saying the majority continue to pay the price for corruption and greed. That's not the same thing, Democratic Alliance. That is you slipping in corruption and greed. Other people, the people speaking about it, were mentioning state capture and service delivery failings and the rest. They're slipping that in sneakily to make you think in a one-liner that BEE, Black Economic Empowerment Policy, has caused mass poverty, mass unemployment, and has caused corruption and greed. But they have not proven that at all. In fact, what they've said is, and this is true, a handful of ANC-connected elites have made a lot of money through corrupting of the Black Economic Empowerment Policy and process. That is true, and that's what some people think about. But that's not the sum total of Black economic empowerment. And more than that, the vast majority of corruption of the state, corruption in the state which has neutered service delivery, destroyed government coffers and the rest, has not been because of Black economic empowerment policy. Black economic empowerment policy did not cause officials in the Gauteng Health Department to be corrupt and look the other way or be intimidated the other way over Tembisa Hospital. Black economic empowerment policy has not did not cause the Transnet Katie Molefe scandal that we are currently learning about, the alleged scandal. Black economic empowerment policy did not cause a lot of the functions of state capture to happen. That wasn't Black economic empowerment policy. That was actually, a lot of it was corrupted ministers, corrupted ANC officials in positions of power to be able to make decisions over contracts and tenders, and corrupt officials in middle management who were able to be intimidated or bought off to look the other way and let things go awry, and corrupt members of the South African Police Service and compromised members of the NPA. But none of that is Black economic empowerment policy. The DA is trying to mislead the country into misunderstanding the miseducation of South Africa, shout out Lauren Hill, into misunderstanding what Black economic empowerment actually is. Trying to make you think that if we get rid of BEE, and you can understand why politically they're doing that, because BEE is, since time immemorial, been the ANC one of the ANC's flagship policies. So they're trying to bash the ANC by saying we can get rid of BEE and get rid of all of these problems. The truth is, like with many other policies in government and many other functions of government, BEE has at times been exploited and corrupted. But there is nothing fundamentally wrong or tending towards corruption or exploitation about the policy of Black economic empowerment. Just like there's nothing fundamentally wrong or corruptible about the functions of our state and the way that our government is set up and designed. It's actually the fact that the systems that are supposed to monitor how the policies are implemented have been compromised, undermined, corrupted, and people trying to actually hold policies accountable and make sure that they work properly have been taken out, have been silenced, have been pushed aside. And so let's actually talk about what BEE actually is, because it seems like people don't even know. And there's people in major political positions trying to mislead you, to misunderstand what BEE is, so that you can't see the real consequences, the full picture of Black economic empowerment policy.
There's also a huge point that a lot of the right has been hanging their hat on in the conversation around BEE, and the DA has incorporated into their marketing of this. And that's the question of the 1 trillion rand going to 100 people. And Carol Patton has written a fantastic article in News 24 with the title, Did 100 People Get 1 trillion rand from BEE? I think everyone should read this article. It's extremely illuminating. And it essentially links this fact back to the academic advocates, Professor William Gumede, the guy who was also helping with the Moonshot Pact. And he came up with this line, and lots of people used it. and under scrutiny from BEE experts and people in the industry, debunked it pretty comprehensively, saying that there are far more people there's far more money, more than R1 trillion, but there are far more people also that have benefited from it. That is a key piece of, that's a key line, a key fact that they are using, which really needs to be taken with a huge pinch of salt.
I'm not going to talk about BEE. I'm actually, just so that naysayers can have a little bit of cognitive dissonance, I'm not going to start by talking about BEE from my perspective. I'm going to use an article from one of the big 5 law firms in South Africa, Cliff Decker Hofmeyr, an article written about BEE by their Director of Corporate and Commercial Law. This is what Black Economic Empowerment actually is. It's BBBEE, Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment. It is legislatively mandated and regulated system of laws and policies aimed at promoting BEE and thereby addressing the exclusion of the majority of Black South Africans from effectively participating in the formal economy under apartheid. It is a redress move to bring justice and undo historic injustice. Black South Africans, as per this article, are those who were previously classified under apartheid laws as African, colored, and Indian. And the primary goal is to get more people of color into significant positions or just middle management positions to become and to be included as part of companies of all sizes and all scales. This is not just about BEE compliance on a massive government tender that now and again ends up being won by somebody who is inappropriately connected. And remember, every time that happens, it should not have happened. And if the law takes its course, that tender will be cancelled and those people will be held to account, because that is the misimplementation of Black economic empowerment policy. It's literally against the spirit of BEE. And so it's not a problem of the policy, it's a problem of incorrect implementation. So again, if you have ever set up a company or are familiar with the company, you will know a few things. 1, people generally hire who they know. 2, historically, white people have had more education opportunities, better opportunities to network with the kinds of wealthy people who are connected in running companies and working at companies. It is more likely, and are personally related to people who own and run more companies, it's more likely that white people get hired in general across the board in all industries. So BEE seeks to redress that by incentivizing companies to hire worthy, talented, capable people who, by the overhang structure that apartheid left us in our society, are denied opportunities not because they're not skilled, talented, or deserving, but because of the superstructure of our society that benefits white people overwhelmingly. But it's not an unreasonable policy, BEE. I have a small company. Many other people have small companies. You will know that small businesses have a much lower compliance burden, as it's written in this article. So the cost to implement BEE would usually not outweigh the potential benefits. What are the other benefits, according to this article? Diversity in relation to ownership and governance, as well as a diverse workforce that not only promotes social cohesion, but also inclusivity and the opportunity to harness the benefits of diverse stakeholder engagement, which can lead to enhanced reputation, increased productivity, reduced employment churn, and better alignment between the interests of owners, managers, and workers. Next, skills development that can lead to improved productivity and employee satisfaction and generally increase morale and confidence, which can then have a socioeconomic impact outside of the immediate business. Next, enhanced supplier diversity. Significant benefit as it potentially opens up supply chain opportunities and reduces reliance on single or restricted supply arrangements. You're literally putting more people into business, into industry, including more people with their connections, their perspectives, their insights, their customer bases into your company, into your business. It's literally good business to do what BEE incentivizes companies to do, but not, as you know, forces companies to do. Next, enhance business relationships with suppliers, customers as engagement increases. As I just said, better understanding of your customers. Again, we can't be living in a world where you sincerely believe that your company that is overwhelmingly white to the point of being culturally white, but has a principally black customer base in terms of whatever product or service that you're selling. You can't believe that your overwhelmingly whiter, wealthier leadership structure knows as much as they can or should, or has the insights that they should, if they've got a principally less wealthy black audience, it is good business to get people in who can understand more about the different modalities of being South African. And finally, in this article, better and enhanced competitive standing in the market as a result of enhanced BEE scoring. Then, there are some disadvantages of BEE sometimes. For large entities, sometimes it is costly to be compliant. Obviously, it is costly. Sometimes it is difficult to make these arrangements. But ultimately, overwhelmingly, the consequence of Black economic empowerment policy is to get people of color into positions in companies that they deserve by their natural talent, their discipline, their work ethic, and by their qualification, skill level, and potential, right? That is what BEE ultimately is. To scapegoat it down to the examples where BEE has been perverted by bad actors in implementation positions to benefit a few wealthy elites is a frankly laughable, borderline offensive mischaracterization of what Black economic empowerment policy is. And to blame what I just described to you for mass poverty, unemployment, and the need for people to have social grants is frankly ludicrous. It is absolutely afactual. It is absolutely insane and a mischaracterization of what is actually going on. In fact, Black economic empowerment policy is getting many more people who are more likely to be less wealthy, to come from less wealthy families, to be the first in their family lineage to go to university, the first in their family lineage to get a matric, the first in their family lineage to have the kinds of skills and qualifications to make the kind of money that can move you just from a lower class or a working class into a vaguely upper working class or middle class. To characterize that policy, which is doing that. It is getting people into the workforce who otherwise would not be given those opportunities, not through a skill deficit, but through race and historic prejudice and historic biases from apartheid that's been put into our society. To characterize that whole thing as the reason why the vast majority of people are poor is absolutely insane. Then let me add a little bit more. So the DA wants to do this economic inclusion for all bill. They want to turn it into an act, right? And they're saying we've got a better way, or like a better way of analyzing, exclude the race lens from trying to solve poverty alleviation obstacles. And to that, the obvious answer is, cool, why does that have to replace BEE? Why can't they live alongside each other? Why can't they achieve different goals that are effective? Plus, there's the fact that besides BEE, there are already very, 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 very good policies being implemented badly, being corrupted by bad actors, many of them from the ANC in different levels of government. And the reason why poverty is not being alleviated is not the policy's fault. It's the accountability, it's the corruption, corrupting all of these different policies. But there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the policy. So the DA has to show us why this Economic Inclusion for All Act, if it becomes one, it's currently a bill, would be better than the poverty alleviation policies that already exist in government. And even if they do that, they need to prove to us why only one of the two between this and BEE can exist. Because remember, the second that you remove race, the second that you take away BEE, you are no longer addressing the consequences that still exist of the historic injustices of apartheid, the social fabric and the way that it has remained built from apartheid. You're not addressing that. And if you do away with the race-based, if you do away with BEE, you're not helping people who are already working class or already have a qualification or who are already not on social grants or who have already made some money for themselves or already are able to enter the workforce. You're not helping them get into the workforce. That is the cost to this. You are doing away with the one policy that actually takes on the fundamentally racially exclusive nature of South African business and South African wealth. So that is the actual cost to doing away with BEE, because remember, BEE as a policy is not the problem. If we had accountable, effective oversight and good government functioning, then BEE would not have cautionary tales of ANC corruption, ANC elites, all those things. But no South African government policies would either. No South African government departments would either. The corruption and perverting of policies and government positions is endemic to our state and not the fault of BEE or specific policies.
Dan, how do you feel about this topic?